Hello everyone, welcome to the Melancholy Coaching Podcast. I'm Fran, your host and NLP Coach. Join me as I interview inspiring business owners and self-improvement seekers about their experiences whilst delving into personal development, motivation and strategies for overcoming challenges. Let's ignite our creative potential together. Hello and welcome to the Melancholy Coaching Podcast. I'm Fran, your NLP coach, and I'm delighted to introduce an inspiring guest, a courageous trans man who has navigated a challenging and transformative journey of self-discovery and authenticity. Through decades of trauma, Che has worked tirelessly to embrace his true self, finding healing and growth along the way. A social worker by day and a passionate gig photographer when he has the energy, which I'm sure is all the time, actually. Che, welcome to the show.
Hi,
It's a delight
Fran.
to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
What's this about, like, when you have the energy?
It is when I have the energy, because actually I don't sometimes.
Uh,
I just don't have the energy to actually do it.
yeah,
I get
it's,
it
I
takes a
kind
lot.
of get that. Yeah, I kind of get that because sometimes it isn't just about physical energy, is it?
No,
It's the
it's about the mental.
emotional energy.
You
Yes.
have to focus. You have to be, and I actually have an anxiety as well. So, having anxiety and having to put on a performance, I just sometimes it's just like, actually I don't have enough energy to actually do that. And through the process of me accepting me, I've also learned to actually, if I feel that something's not right, then don't do it.
Yeah, which is a very emotionally intelligent thing to do. To actually realize that as human beings, we've got that capability that we can choose where we put in our energy. Um,
Yeah, but it takes a long
and
time at times to actually learn that
yeah,
and actually
yeah, I
listen to
agree.
ourselves and our bodies and minds. Um, and I think you have to actually get to a level of acceptance and healing before you're actually able to do that, to be honest. That's from my experience anyway.
This leads nicely into what I want to ask you. So thank you for joining me on this podcast today. What I'm going to do is ask you three kind of questions that I've prepared. We're just going to chat around it, okay? Because I quite like a little bit of structure. And I love working from templates. Like my whole day is like a template. Otherwise, I would literally just wander off and be found magically skipping through a forest somewhere, and I won't get anything done.
But I don't see nothing wrong with that. I think
Well,
that's
it's fine sometimes, just not when I want to actually get anything done. So my first question for you, which what we've just been talking about leads kind of nicely into it. So can you share a little bit about your journey? What are some of your biggest challenges that you faced during your transition and about having the strength to move forward?
so. This is not probably going to be a short answer, Fran. This
That's
could be quite a
okay.
long one.
Everybody's version of a little bit is going to vary.
Yeah, well, mine's not going to be a little bit. This is the long bit. Okay.
Go
So
on.
actually, I was 8 when I first knew that
Okay.
I was different. Um, I asked my mum why I didn't have an Adam's apple, why I wasn't born the same way as my brother, and I was laughed at. I was told I was stupid. I was told I'm a girl. Um, and this is like, when was this? This been like 1981. So this was like, you know, people weren't accepting. People weren't, coming up to the AIDS epidemic and, all of the stuff, Maggie Thatcher in power and all of that. So everything was like, hey, change, difference. No, it wasn't accepted. So I buried that part of me for a long, long time. And I eventually came out as a lesbian because that's what I thought I must be, because I can't be a guy, because that's not things that happen. There was nobody around that, in my day, basically, that I was aware of. We didn't have social media and none of that stuff. So, anything that you'd
There,
read about
there
was in
wasn't a
paper.
there wasn't a role model as such
No, there
for
wasn't a
you.
role.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
Um, and so I assumed I was a lesbian. Lived as a lesbian through the majority of my adult life. And yeah, it just wasn't right. Always knew it wasn't right, but I had no words to actually um, move forward. I think there was, for me, I think I had my own internal transphobia because it was stuff that I'd learnt.
Yeah.
Um, that I continued until I actually had coaching. I had I still have this amazing mentor that I learned that I had my own internal transphobia, learned from others. Um, so it wasn't until that point that when I started my journey, that I was actually able to address that and actually work through that. So I first came out as non-binary, February 2024. Um, and I believe that now, after a long process, not very long for some, but a long for me, um, I did that to actually not just protect myself, but actually in some way protect others and be kinder, if you like. So
I
I'm
understand.
married to a trans woman who um unfortunately wasn't as accepting as I'd hoped. Um and that was me coming out as non-binary. Uh and society around me, I was scared. I was very scared. Um so then I started on my social medical transition as a non-binary person, but it wasn't enough.
Okay.
Um, and it wasn't
Can
until
I,
I started the talking with my mentor and unpacking some of my early childhood traumas.
I was just going to go there. Do you know what? I was just going to say that I love that you've got a mentor, and I love that you brought that up. As a coach myself, like I'm a big advocate for people having coaching. A lot of people don't understand what mentoring is or what coaching is, and it can really help guide you, because a mentor isn't there to tell you what to do. A mentor's there to help you discover what you've already got within yourself and to work through that, because quite often we have a lot of unpacking to do, don't we?
Yeah. And
You
it's
know,
not till you sit and you reflect back on that that you actually understand the trauma and how it stays in your body. This is
yeah,
from my experience, and it stayed in my body and it came out as real self-hate. I really did not like myself. Um, and it's only now that I can actually say, actually, I love myself. I have never been able to say that in 50 years, but now I can because I do. I generally do love it.
okay. Are you ready for a little challenge?
Yes.
Yes. I've got a question for you then. Are
Is
you
this not on
able
my
to?
list?
It's not, I'm going rogue. What can I say?
Oh, Fran.
It's not on my list. When you say you love yourself, it's a
Yes.
beautiful thing. Are you able to look in the mirror,
Yes.
actually at yourself,
Yes.
and say, I love you?
Yes.
Because that's a massive step, isn't
I
it?
do that. And
Mm,
I've only been able to do that in the last 6 months.
it's very powerful.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I talk to myself in the mirror. If I do have periods of anxiety, but I'm able to talk through that. I'm able to talk through
Mm,
that with myself. Um, and I know who I am. I know I'm a trans guy. Um,
yeah.
I know my path. I know where I'm going. Um, but it's taken 50 years to get to this point. Now I'm 52 and I'm actually living me.
Yeah. It's because we don't come with the tools and techniques to help ourselves. That's what we need guidance over. So once you're ready to, you can find that from within yourself. But until then, you get it from, a role model or a coach or a mentor or a guide, because you can then build up those resources and that toolkit that you can actually lean into that helps support yourself,
And for
whether
me,
that
I
be
had to actually,
mentally and physically.
yeah, I also, sorry to interrupt. I also had to heal that past trauma and work through that. And
Again, with past trauma can't be healed until you accept that you want to.
no,
Even somebody guiding you. can't make you do that.
No.
Can't even have guidance unless you give yourself permission that you can go there. And quite often, we don't realize exactly the root of the trauma
Yeah.
because there's too many other things layered on top. So it's kind of it's I believe that it is a process that we work through, and I don't think that we're ever finished.
No, I completely agree. I think for me, one of the biggest things was I grew up thinking I was stupid. That was huge.
Yeah.
And that's because of what I was told, not just because of my identity. I'm dyslexic. I've only recently been diagnosed with ADHD. You know, all those things growing up, I was actually just labeled as stupid in comparison to my twin brother. You know, because I had different,
Ah, now here we go. Twin.
I have a twin brother who's
Right.
gay,
Okay. So not
who's
just
actually gay.
sibling, a twin. So therefore, there's presumably there's even more comparison.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And what is interesting is my face shape has started to change and I look a bit more like him, which is really quite bizarre. Um, um, but yes, so my mother never wanted a girl, and recent I will share this because actually recently I found out where she lived and actually wrote to her, and it was cathartic for me because I needed to, and actually introduced myself as her son. And I said, and I know you never wanted a daughter. Well, you never had one, but you didn't listen. Um,
Ouch.
Yeah, because I needed to say this from me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I never expected a response from her. I didn't actually, I don't believe I actually wanted one.
Okay.
Um, but I needed to say my story because she'd never listened to me. And I just needed it out of my body, and give it back to her. And I said to her that, you know, the door is there if you want to knock on it. It doesn't mean I'm going to let you in.
Did she?
No. But I didn't
Okay.
expect
That's fine. But the invitation's there.
the
Um.
invitation's there, but before
Yeah.
I'd have said the door was always open. No, actually, the door is there for you to knock on. So I think that's a different changing your mindset
Yeah.
is huge in your healing for me.
Letter writing, putting things actually
Yeah.
into words, like formulating words, writing, whether it's journaling or, writing letters, is actually a really good process to do. And just for anybody listening, if you have got those things inside of you, if this is striking a chord with you in any way, and you've got those things that you need or want to say inside of you, and you cannot, or you feel in any way that you can't actually physically send a letter, because you don't know where somebody is or you really don't want to go there, you can still write it. You can
Yeah.
still write it. You can still get that out onto paper, whether that's in a journal, whether you then burn it, bury it, keep it. You can write these letters. You can write these things anyway, without them actually being sent.
Yeah, they don't have to go anywhere. It gets it
Mm.
out of you. And I think through my journey, I've started to write poetry. I've started to journal, you know, and getting it out. Actually, you know, there were some frigging dark moments. I was not in a great place September, October before surgery. I really wasn't in a good place, and I'm not afraid to actually say that. But my world around me, as I knew it, was crumbling down. My relationship had broken down with my wife, you know, who I knew myself previously wasn't there anymore, and I was learning new ways to you know go about the world, manage the world. There were challenges in work that were horrendous, about just because of my identity. There, you know, challenges with people that I thought were friends. You know, but and I hit a real low. Um, and that time actually, that's when I found Alex, my coach, and was able to process some of that stuff and actually realize that it wasn't me. This was a lot of stuff that I'd accepted from other people, like the shame
But
but it
that
sticks
that
with
that finding the strength to move forward was
you.
really the place that you were at the time, and then reaching out for a mentor because you were ready.
Yeah. I knew that I was destined to stay on this planet. I
Yeah.
don't know if this makes sense to some people, but it does to me. I knew my life wasn't over, it was just beginning. And I knew I needed somebody to support in that. And
Yeah.
for whatever happened, the universe brought myself and Alex together, and it was the match that I needed.
Yeah.
And Yeah, I'm not sure what would have happened if I hadn't met him at that point, but we were destined to meet at that point. I believe
Something
that.
else would have happened. Something else. Something else would have
Universe, the
happened.
universe,
It just,
there's
yeah,
so many things happen. The universe is amazing, and you have to believe and you have to trust in your journey and where it's taking you. That's what that's how I'm starting to grow, and that's what I'm starting to believe more and more is our paths. There is a lot of there's a lot that we are being directed to, and if we just accept it.
yeah. I I completely hear you on it. Because I truly believe that as human beings, we're all on our own journey. We're all on our own path, and we can get kind of a little bit lost in the stereotypical norms or in just how busy life gets within itself, so that you're just more or less existing because your days roll on and on because you're just getting by, and that's okay as well. There's no right or wrong in any of this. We reach these stages when we're ready to, and that's
Mhm.
why within our timelines this could have happened younger or even later in life. There's no right or wrong to it. It's embracing the journey, isn't it?
And I think that's important, is because there's never my time was now. My
Yeah,
time wasn't, I wasn't ready then.
yeah,
So
exactly,
even
exactly.
even though I knew in my mind that I was different to how I was born, there were, the social norms and everything else put on me that didn't fit with me, but my time was not then.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
I like this because this leads beautifully on to my next question, my next
yeah.
planned question, anyway. So, what message or insight would you like to share with others who are in the midst of their own journeys of self discovery and transition? So, it needn't necessarily be a transition as in, becoming trans, it's just that transition of life.
Everybody's journey is different, and we might be similar in very many ways.
Yeah.
It's very different. Another trans person's journey, completely different to mine. Another cis person's journey, completely different to the next door neighbours, whatever. It's like another social worker's journey, completely different. Just because we have you know, these labels, it doesn't mean our journeys are going to be the same. So it's actually, I would say it's about embracing your journey, listening to yourself, and reaching out for that support as and when you need it.
Yeah. And
Um,
getting yourself to a place of safety, whether that's in your mind or whether that's physically, where you can reach out for help
yeah.
if you need it. So it's those
And it has to
resources
be a safe
that
space.
are
It has
needed.
to be a safe space. It definitely has to be
Yeah,
a safe space. Um, because if you're not safe, you can't actually delve deep enough to actually get those things. Maybe not reconciled completely, because I don't think I don't know if I'll ever reconcile lots of things, but actually at peace. So I think you have to
see,
feel
that's the important thing. That's been let's talk about me now, because that's been like my thing in life is that inner peace, because I've always felt in turmoil through,
Mhm.
my own life journey and my own experiences, and it was that peace that I felt that I was missing. And I now feel very peaceful because I've got to that stage in my life, and I've learned how to have the tools and techniques to help to support myself in what I want. So my intention for how I feel is peaceful. Somebody else's intention or desire for how they feel could be different, or it could be different, linked to a different emotion or something like that. And it's not always easy to find that place that we search, is it?
And
um
just because you have inner peace at some points doesn't mean it's always going to be peaceful. But you
yeah,
can actually
so
you
it's
can
that continuity, isn't it? It's that
remember what
continuity.
that's like, and you can hold on to that because you've actually known it once. You can go back to that, and that's what I'm learning. And I don't think I'll ever stop learning. I think if we ever stop learning, we probably die. I think for life is a journey, and life is a learning journey.
Well,
Uh,
you keep learning, you're forming new neural pathways, you
yeah,
know, not only keeps your brain sharp, but you can learn things at any age.
yeah.
You can relearn things at any age.
And I've learned so much about myself in this journey.
Mm.
You know, and stuff that I actually don't think I would be ready for if I was younger. Um, so another thing is actually it's never too late to actually start on a new pathway. I'm now,
I
50,
I
about
actually oh, hang on a minute. 50 what now?
52.
52. I'm still the elder here. I'm still the elder.
I'm 52, but I feel like I'm in my 30s. I feel much younger than I
Yeah.
actually ever probably have done. When I was 50, um, and I think, that's because of the self-acceptance, the actually self-love. I don't feel the numbers. I don't think actually they're relevant in many ways, but I think for others, I think it's never too late to start change. Never too late to start looking at change, to
Yeah.
actually be your authentic self.
So I also believe a lot of the time we take on other identities as such. So from the moment we're little, even if we're from a loving environment, so there's no blame here. We're
Mhm.
going with the no right or wrong thing, no
Yeah, yeah.
blame. Um, Even when we're little, we take on, oh, you're very good, or you're this, or you're that, and that becomes our identity. It can become part of our identity. So equally, if you hear you're stupid, you're lazy, it almost becomes who you are. And then by
Yes.
the time you're stepping into your teens and then maybe into the workplace or whatever, you take on all these other identities or all these other parts of your life. And quite often, it's either the place that you're in, so it's that stereotypical kind of identity, or it's what we're told we are. None of it is who we truly are inside, and that takes some discovery, doesn't it?
And it doesn't stop when you start to discover. You still keep learning more things
Yeah.
about yourself. And I
The
think
stuff about identity, it runs
yeah,
so deep.
and I think one thing for me was actually the acceptance of myself, coming out non-binary initially, and then, trans mask. It's like that was huge. That was a big step. But if I hadn't have done that, I would have been um still stuck, still
Yeah.
not living as me. Um, but I had to go through that process. Um,
Right, I'm in again. Some of that though is fear. Do you
yeah, it
actually
definitely
think
was.
that a lot of it is we're held back by fear?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's fear of judgment, it's fear of what could happen, it's fear of the unknown a lot of the time, isn't it?
I think I was very, very fearful of actually losing what I had. And I've lost that anyway. But um,
So losing what you had, even if what you had is not necessarily completely right for you.
exactly. But it's still fearful. Um,
Yeah,
and I know it wasn't right, and it was actually I masked quite a lot. I think, ADHD, potentially autism is definitely on my yeah, it's in there,
yeah,
it's I think masking is a huge thing, and being able not to mask is actually probably one of the most beautiful things. Um, and finding people as well in my life that I don't need to feel that I need to mask around is just
yeah.
it's
And again, there's
I,
no judgment for people that are still in that place where they
no,
mask. I mean, I even mask in a lot of situations, or I can be a little bit of a I was going to say comedian,
you're a comedian for
a
that.
bit of a, I am actually, but a bit of a chameleon as such, because
Yeah,
you take on the environment to either fit in or because that's what makes you feel happy. So I've gone through a bit of kind of a transition within my mind and my personality, um, because in my younger years I thought that I did it to fit in, to get by with the situation, to fit into that party, to fit, and then I just go home and sleep, because I was so exhausted. Whereas
exactly.
now I realise actually we're multifaceted human beings. So it's just embracing those different sides of my personality or those different things that I want to do. So I can be very different in different contexts.
Yeah,
So in the context of somebody's party, I can be very different to how I am when I sit at my desk, and that's okay as well.
I am the
It's
same. I am the same, and I know that. But I know when feel like I've had to mask because I come home and I'm exhausted. And
That's the difference, isn't it? That's why I said I used to come and I had to sleep, whereas now I feel good.
So it's like, so I know when I'm masking because but I can identify that because I'm exhausted, and it's like it's because I've masked, and it's like, but I know sometimes when I go to work, I have the biggest imposter syndrome you can think of. I don't, but I'm a senior social worker, crying out loud. I must have done something right. I'm not that stupid young girl that my mother told me I was.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that, but I still have to mask at work because I I, I just feel I have to. And
By
then
imposter syndrome, is that a feeling that you're not good enough or you're not qualified enough?
all of those, all of those. But I've
All of
actually, what is interesting, I've been speaking to other social workers about this, including manager, who actually still feel like that, even though they've been doing it, decades more than me. Um, I think it's actually a lot, because we're dealing with people's lives here, a huge impact. And I think we always question ourselves. Um, Actually, are we good enough? Should we be doing this? And I just think it's something because of the expectations on us and the expectations.
Yeah, so in a sense, it can be exacerbated by the career itself.
Yeah.
Whereas anybody at any point can feel imposter syndrome. We can all look online and feel that somebody's got a bigger account, more followers, more, you
Mm.
know, the neighbour's got a better patio set, or I don't know. I mean, is that FOMO? Where does it become like the fear of missing out, or the coveting other people's things, or, you know, um, imposter syndrome? So I suppose imposter syndrome is more about how you feel you perform in the world, or you perform with your
Yeah.
job, or
But I think it's actually in my job that I feel like that. But I think it's because I started late. I didn't start my career until I was 40. Um, you know, and for a social worker, actually, that's quite late. Um, Even though I've got now the life experience, which I think is actually more valuable, to be able to do this role. I think the stupid label that I was given, it's still there, but I don't believe that about myself, but it's still there. And I think it has an impact on the imposter bit as well. Um, so
how
yeah,
did you cope with that when you were younger, that feeling of, you know, I'm stupid, or everybody thinks this about me, or how did you cope with that?
I thought I was.
Okay,
I was always getting compared to my
interesting.
brother.
Yeah.
And he was a high achiever academically. I got into sport, I got into trouble, I got into lots of stuff I shouldn't have got into.
Okay, so you acted up a little bit.
Exactly, who's
Yeah.
cooking, in the bike sheds. Hey, the stupid girl. Um, you know, who's getting into fights? Oh, it's her again.
Right. So that's almost like, this is what you think of me. So
I'm gonna be that
actually, this
way.
is what I am. Yeah, I can relate to that, because I was the clown, and I still am in a lot of respects. So, the person that would stand dancing on the table, or, it's like, it's a funny one, because by making more of a spectacle and being like, oh, so you think that I'm silly, or you think that I'm the clown, so I'll be an even bigger one. You'd
Exactly.
think it would draw more attention, but in some ways it allows you that some kind of freedom of expression, but while people don't actually know you,
Yeah,
because I've always been painfully shy, so they know what they think they know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'll play up to that as well, because it's fun to be a clown, so,
And
but they don't
yeah,
actually know you on the inside. So do you feel that there was a little bit of that going on as well? So when you were acting up, do you feel like that was almost like a mask as well?
yeah, definitely. I don't think anybody knew me who I was growing up.
Right.
Because people think that I'm a really extrovert person. Actually, I'm actually a very anxious individual who actually is, um, I think I'm more quiet and reserved than actually other people have ever realized that I am. They see this.
Is that how you choose to be as well?
I think some of it's the ADHD because sometimes it just I can't control it and it comes out
Yeah.
in quite random kind of ways. But I think people are seeing more of me now that I've accepted myself. I'm
Yeah.
calm. I'm so much more calmer. Testosterone, by the way, don't believe what people say about testosterone. The most calming drug ever. I'm
Okay.
so much more calmer, but maybe that isn't the drug. It's about actually how I feel about
It's your
myself.
balance. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's just your
Um,
balance.
and yeah, it's
But the thing is as well, that also leads into the fact that as human beings, we are allowed to change.
yes, we are.
You know, there's gonna be fundamental things inside of us that won't ever, you know, and with certain topics, I'm not going there, by the way. I'm not going there. You know, you can think of that what you will, but we're allowed to change. We're allowed to evolve.
Yeah.
We're allowed to keep learning, and we're allowed to give ourselves permission to do that.
And I think many don't allow that.
Mm,
And that's where we feel stuck. But I'm happy that I've actually embraced change. And actually,
yeah.
I'm happy that I'm accepting myself so much more than I ever have done throughout my life in so many different levels, not just the transness, about actually, yeah, I have a diagnosis of ADHD. Yeah, I have a diagnosis of dyslexia. It doesn't define me wholly as a person. There's elements of me that obviously it impacts. Um,
It's not your whole identity.
No, it's not my whole being trans is not my whole identity. I'm Che, you know, and this is who I am, not those bits of me that people want to actually see. Um, see me as a whole person, really. I think that's a message.
Yeah. Yeah, and that can be a message for others as well, definitely. And you've also you touched on the whole, like, peace thing, because
Mm.
I go on about that a lot because I like feeling that inner peace. So for you, would that be feeling peaceful? Would it be calm? What kind of emotion would you attach to that?
Well, I do that when, I actually feel a big peace quite often,
Mm,
predominantly when I've done breath work and after then. And I don't think we understand as humans, we need to breathe more. We need to breathe deep within rather than just
deeply, yeah.
deep within and let oxygen in our bodies rather than just
Mm.
this top shallow bit that we
But it's that conscious awareness, isn't it? Because, you know, it's being aware of your body and how those deep breaths make you feel.
yeah. So that grounding piece, if you like,
Mm.
I
Yeah,
feel that when I do that, but I feel at more peace because I'm accepting myself and I wake up, I expect myself every single day. I'm actually
I
pleased to
like that.
be on this planet every single day. Um,
Yeah.
I, you know, I'm at peace because I I am because, just because
Some
able to be
some
me.
some of it also lends itself to what's just because one thing is right for somebody doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for somebody else. So the
Mm,
breath work, I get it, and I do have to consciously remind myself to take a deep breath. Personally, I don't follow breath work instruction.
mm,
And part of that is just a medical thing for me because I've previously had multiple lung clots. So I've had multiple pulmonary embolisms on both lungs. It's left me with a lot of scar tissue. So I can't keep up,
mm,
and I can't hold for that long and things like that. So breath work is not my go-to.
mhm.
But for somebody else, it would be, or maybe somebody's curious, what is that?
Yeah.
So therefore, look into breath work because it may well be the thing that you need to help ground you.
And that's like with everything. Not one thing fits everybody. It just
Yeah,
because it's right for me doesn't make
yeah.
it right for you.
It's having that safety, that safe place, and the acceptance of yourself to explore what could or might work.
And it's been in that mindset that actually you want to change and you want to
Yeah,
feel change and explore how you want to do that. Everything, not everything is right for one person, and everybody, it's right for one person. It might not be right for you, next person,
yeah.
whatever. But
That's why it's all right to try things as
try,
well. You
yeah.
know,
I
I've
I was
tried things before that I've completely run away from, like I've hated it.
I was really breath work, but it works for me. I
It
absolutely
works for you, yeah. And I'm very intrigued. and I like to hear more about it. So perhaps we can have a conversation with that personally. It's just not something that I get it, but I
Yeah.
don't overly get into due to my own medical condition. So I do use a lot of grounding though,
Mm,
and within neurolinguistic programming, there's a thing called anchoring, which anybody can do. So anchoring is that immersing yourself in that feeling that you choose to have.
mhm.
So whether that be that calmness or that peace, and it's remembering a time when you felt that, and you remember what it sounded like, what it smelt like, or what it felt like, and you can bring yourself to that moment. It's just similar thing. Works within mindfulness as well. I love mindfulness too.
Yeah, yeah.
For being in the present moment, for grounding, just for that inner calm. Um, Meditation works for some. I I can do meditations. I can do guided meditations, but mine are fairly short. So don't
Yes.
worry, Jay, don't worry. Mine are short because I don't have the concentration span,
No, exactly.
because I need to fidget all the time. So if meditation works for people, that's great. If you're interested in knowing more about it or experiencing it and you want it to be quick, then come to me because mine are fast. And that's
They
the
have to be for your mind. They're probably
Yeah,
for
because I
me.
can't pay attention for that long.
No, no.
Or I find it funny. I
Yeah,
find it amusing.
yeah.
Again, but for those into meditation or if you're interested, that could work as well. There's so many different techniques out there, isn't there?
Yeah, and I've also started to read, and I found a beautiful book. I'll share that with you sometime on another, but it's actually about lessons and things we can learn about ourselves.
I love that.
I found it really, really useful.
Yeah.
Um, and because I have struggled reading in the past, I'm getting more into it now and actually really quite enjoying it. But it's a short book, and I was like, "No," but actually I loved it. I couldn't put it down.
Mm.
Um,
I'm
so yeah,
I'm a bit of a book lover's nightmare. Um, little spoiler alert here. Little I read either with ruler, marker pen, a highlighter, and you know where that's gonna go, don't you? All
oh,
over the pages. Oh, I know.
and then
Um,
you've highlighted the whole frigging page, and you don't know where you are, or you don't know why you've highlighted that bit.
I've highlighted it for a particular reason, and then yeah, or I write words at the bottom, or because I only get so far, and then I don't understand what a word means, and then I go down a whole rabbit hole of finding out what it is, and it takes me off at a different tangent. But I find I pay attention more if I read something that also has audio to it. So I
Right.
will listen and read along while I'm listening. That helps me a lot, and then I will leave the pens and highlighters alone and the
No, but
book remains
that's showing
intact to be
different
loved
ways.
and shared.
That's showing we have different ways of learning, and that's what was right for you isn't right for me,
Yeah.
or whatever. That's
Be
actually
horrific for you potentially if you saw some of my books.
I would actually it probably actually break my mind.
Oh dear. But again,
Yeah,
different ways are going to
cat's
work for
sitting in
different
front. He
people.
wants to say hello too.
Hello, kitty cat. We've got a kitty cat here. So for anybody just listening and not watching
He
the
missed.
video with
Sorry.
Che has got a beautiful cat. Um, right, this leads me on to my other lovely pre-planned question for you. What are some
Yes.
of your hopes like for the future? And I know that's very broad and very general, so take from that what you will,
I think
you know. sh-
I have some specific hopes for me is one,
Okay,
and this is going to happen. I have manifested this. This is going to happen. My house is going to sell, and my divorce is going to be through.
okay.
They
That will then help you move on to your next stage.
and that will help me move on,
Mm,
considerably help me move on. Um, so that's a hope. It's not a dream. It's going to happen. It's going to happen within a certain time frame that I have given it. I know it's going to. Um, I so my hope for my trans self is actually that there is more acceptance, that we actually can stop finger pointing, blaming the trans community for everything that's going wrong in the world, and actually just accept us for us, give us the right medical treatment that, that we're entitled to, and support us to be our authentic selves. That's my hope for the
okay.
future. Um, And we had to do this through great gay rights. We had to, you know, we went through it, we got through it, and we got stronger. Then we got, you know, same-sex wedding, marriage and stuff accepted after so much frigging hate and so much finger pointing and gay people are paedophiles, all of that nonsense that we're getting as trans people. It will change. It's just,
Some of that is, I'm gonna lightly touch on this. So
oh,
some of it is, if people want to hate, they will find something to hate,
yeah,
and they will find somebody to hate, and they will find a thing to hate. They just will, and they will then move on to the next thing to hate. Some of it is fear.
yeah,
So we have our own fears to work through, as do other people, and people are, they're scared of change. They're scared of their own rights being implicated or taken away, or and they get caught up within possibly media or things that they've heard, and it gets kind of, the message gets shared in a way that it wasn't intended to.
mm,
Um, so it either gets diluted from the original voices that need to be listened to, um, or it just gets changed into something else out of fear. I've got no judgment for people feeling fearful. I just hope, along with you, that minds can be open and they can be open to learning. And you don't have to agree with somebody else or agree with their life choices. You don't have to agree with them to let them live their life and let them feel the peace or the calm that they desire, and you get on with your life.
yeah, completely. I don't want people to have to agree with me. I don't people actually, people don't need to understand my journey. People don't have to understand what it's like to be a trans guy or trans whatever. You know, people don't need to understand that, but just accept me. And that's what my
Yeah,
hope is, acceptance.
yeah, just pure acceptance.
All I
Just,
want is
I'm
to,
here living my life. You're there living your life. Let's have no judgment. Let's just accept.
exactly. That's the
Yeah.
biggest hope for me is acceptance.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Um, your insights, your inspiring journey. Um, I think this has been a truly powerful conversation. And I know there's a whole deeper thing for us to get into with this. So I'd love to have you back if you'd like to come back and talk to me again.
I'll talk to you again, Taran.
Oh, thank you very much. I know that you'll inspire others to embrace their authentic selves, find strength in their journeys. So, with that said, if you would like to find out more about what Che does, or if you're interested just in more of their journey, you can actually find him on Instagram. And I'm going to share your media one. So I'm going to spell it out. It's CHE_DORIZMEDIA. That's Dorit's Media. And that's one of your accounts, isn't it? Is is that is it just out of interest? Is it a private account or is it a
No,
public account?
that's an open account.
It's an open account. Okay, so
I have one private, so
it's open to understanding,
yeah.
um, and a place of peace, for people to is that mostly for your photography, or are there other things on
No,
there?
it is my photography, but I have added a few bits about my journey as well. But it is primarily
Okay.
about photography that I do.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with media and with social media. We get to curate what we see and what we
Yeah,
interact with, and we also get to curate what we put out into the world.
yeah,
So therefore, again, some of this comes from fear. If people are fearful of the public knowing things about them, you don't have to share.
yeah. It's
When you and I go out onto social media, we're sharing what we want people to see, because we want to inspire or we want to motivate or interest people. Um, so it's about sharing, again, from a safe space, what you're happy for people to see. So if that's going to involve part of your journey, that's also going to be inspiring for a lot of people, I'm
exactly.
sure.
If anybody does come to London or Brighton Pride, I am a photographer this year again.
Oh,
So
amazing.
if people do spot me and want to come and say hi, more than welcome to have a chat.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to say, before we wrap this up, do you want to just say a little bit about your photography? what it actually is that you're doing?
Yeah, I do gig photography if people want me. I've done Fabulous, Electric Enemy, Els Bailey, Grace Petrie, to name but a few, Skindred. But it's just, yeah, it's just a hobby that I picked up when I was really ill with COVID. I
Oh,
was very unwell for about 8 months. And I needed something to occupy me, occupy my mind. And I knew a band, Electric Enemy, and I started to take photos of them and got invited to the Isle of Wight Festival by the manager
that's incredible.
and took photos of them. And that's how my journey started into gig photography, basically.
Yeah, and you're still going.
Still going. That was in
Still going.
2022. So it's only 3 years, but
Okay.
I got
Do you think that you, just out of interest, did you completely shake COVID off? Because
no.
I've read some stuff about people having long COVID.
So I'm on some medication for an arthritic condition. I wasn't given medication to protect my stomach. Um, and an after effect of COVID is exacerbated some weakness in my stomach, and I've got 6 ulcers in my stomach.
Oh,
Um,
crikey, that's a lot to deal with.
yeah, so constant on medication for that, but they're being managed. It's fine. But it's like the exhaustion. I think, sometimes it is just, I don't think you ever overcome. When you get COVID properly, my taste took 6 months to come back. My taste and smell. It was probably actually the one of the most horrendous things about it was the taste and smell. Um, and and sometimes I still don't taste some things, or they taste different. So I don't think it ever. Don't think it ever. You get back to how you were.
Yeah. So you've managed with that, and it actually was the catalyst for starting your gig photography.
Exactly. Exactly. If I
So
hadn't had that, who knows if I'd have got to here. So actually, thank you, COVID.
yeah, and
In
maybe you would have, but we don't
who
know, do
knows?
we? We don't know.
You don't
Yeah,
know.
so it's following that journey, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, some things can come out of bad.
Yeah. I actually stepped back from my caring career because I'd done a few other things as well, but predominantly a carer for a number of years, and I was burnt out. So during that time, because things were shutting down and I was working private at the time, and I got the time just to sit with myself for a little while, went through the most horrendous depression, and then came out the other side of it. So I think sometimes as well that reminds me actually that when that thing about getting on with our lives and masking and things like that, it can hold us in a certain state.
Yeah.
And when we slow down a little bit or those layers start to come back, that's when other things come out because
Yeah.
there's the space for it.
Yeah.
For me, it was immense depression came out once I slowed down.
Yeah.
Um, so it's also just about having that safety network around you, all those resources. Again, it's something that I'm big on is having those things that you can just support yourself with until you can get the help.
Also, it's actually about allowing yourself to feel. So
Oh, that's a big one.
allow yourself.
Yeah.
I've learned this. I've allowed
Mm.
myself to feel sad. If I'm feeling sad, actually
Yeah.
understand why I'm feeling sad. Talk about it. Talk about it to myself. Actually, I'm feeling sad because of this, and actually, and work through it. If I'm feeling happy. Oh, I didn't expect to feel happy. Why am I feeling happy? But actually, allow it.
It's identifying the emotion as well.
Okay, but we don't do
Um,
that enough, I don't believe, as
mm,
humans. If
mm,
I'm crying, why am I crying? Allow myself to cry. Um, you know, and then that's another thing. I didn't used to allow myself to cry. But if tears come, they're coming for a reason, and I need to actually embrace that. Um, and
and there's many reasons for that. That can be shame,
exactly,
guilt.
exactly. Again,
Yeah,
understand it, allow yourself to feel that emotion, and really feel that emotion. For me, that's really helped. Is this to understand me, and actually, I think it's helped me come as far as I have from my dark moments back in September to where I am now.
yeah. I can see your cat again a little bit there.
Yeah,
Little
he's
cat.
he's still here. He's still here. Look.
Yeah, so for anybody watching the video as well, because the podcast stands alone, but there's a accompanying video that's on YouTube. So, which leads me to, if you're interested in more content like this, be sure to check out Melancholy Coaching on YouTube. And until next time, stay curious, keep igniting your creative potential, and please do go and find Che out on Instagram, out in the
Fabulous.
wild,
Out in the wild, yeah. Come and say
or
hi.
out in the wild at Brighton.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on the Melancholy Coaching Podcast. I'd love you to subscribe. For queries or to connect, email info@melancholymentor.com. Until next time, keep igniting your creative potential.